This is The Canamom Show, a podcast chronicling the inspiring stories of real women in the emerging cannabis industry. Your host, Joyce Gerber, mom, lawyer, political activist, has been speaking with women from coast to coast and around the world who are leaders in the revolution of cannabis and caregiving, continuing on her mission to lift up the stories of the women creating the cannabis industry by sharing their canna stories with you. So go make yourself a cup of tea or roll yourself a joint, sit back, and learn something new about this magical plant on The Canamom Show with Joyce Gerber.
From the Tip O'Neill Studios in North Cambridge, Massachusetts, it's The Canamom Show. Now here's your host, Joyce Gerber.
And welcome back to The Canamom Show, where we continue in our mission of crushing cannabis stigma. All right, Dave, we've been having some good weather in Boston.
Not too bad. We'll take it. Still slightly cool for, beach weather, but we're getting there.
It'll be summer next week. All right. Makes me happy. I finally got air conditioning put in my old house. They finished today, so I'll be able to use it next week.
That's fantastic. It's air conditioning is something we take for granted because when it breaks, it's horrible. It's so bad. I'm glad you have it now.
When I was a young mom and they would get too hot in the house, and I would literally put my kids in an ice bath because I'd just like, cool off. You'll be fine. And they're fine. They're fine kids. They survived.
Yeah, in the house I grew up in, we did not have central air. We had a window unit in, I think, 2 of the 3 bedrooms upstairs. Mm-hmm. And then as you walked upstairs, my mom had this huge comforter that she pinned to the walls to keep the cool in there. Once you crossed over that comforter downstairs, it was the hot zone.
Exactly. That's old school. All right.
Right.
That's our life here in Massachusetts. It didn't used to be this hot. It's been weird. You need air conditioning now. Yeah. All right. I don't want to go into sad. All right. Happiness. This is even happy. Quick reminder. We're on the countdown to the final podcast. I know, Dave. I know. Do your sad music. And I know. But happy music, I could say. I've actually had 2 different outreaches about people who are interested in continuing the Canamom Show podcast. Maybe with a different format, maybe a different host. I always say, I know.
Really? This is breaking news to me.
This is breaking news.
Wow,
just happened.
all right.
Again, I started the Canamom Show like the Daily Show. It is not my show. And if we can continue on in a way of sharing these stories with another host in another format somehow, I think that's great because these stories are huge and they're really impacting the industry. So keep you posted. We may be back in a different podcast format. I have no idea, but we want to continue crushing the cannabis stigma, and stories are really the best way to do it.
And the good thing about a podcast is even though you won't be putting out new shows starting soon, the library still exists and people should access it whenever they like.
And again, there are a lot of these women who are, we can see they've come over the past 5 years, a lot of stories that have evolved and had difficulties and triumph. We've got everything here. So check them out if you haven't heard some of them in a while. And I was much younger back then, before it was pre-pandemic.
We all were.
We all were. All right. We have a special segment guest today, Jamie Morey. She's the founder of Parents for Plant Medicine. This is a grassroots advocacy group working to destigmatize and normalize the use of plant medicine. They are also fighting for the legalization of psilocybin. We'll be chatting with her with a little bit, really about the work she's doing and, why she's, what she thinks is going to help parents and children in this new world and how she can help change that story and, heal people.
So I see ads for beverages that purport to include mushrooms with, I don't know if psychedelic is the right word, whatever. It
changes your mood and your behavior. Psychoactive.
Yeah. But can they just sell those with small amounts of that? Probably not, right?
No, and then the whole hemp issue, which I talk about endlessly, hemp and cannabis, they are the same plant. We have made this distinction. So hemp is legal federally, and now they have all these products in liquor stores and gas stations. Again, never buy your stuff in a gas station. but they are cracking down on it a little bit here in Massachusetts. It's just unfortunate because the CBD market is being impacted too. It's like you pull a string and the whole blanket falls apart. So yeah, don't buy any of those beverages you see in liquor stores. Go to a real dispensary if you want to try a product. I can't say it enough. Don't buy it in the gas station.
Yeah, well, and at a dispensary, you can ask your bud tender's advice as to, what this will do and how it makes you feel, and whether it's a good purchase for you or not.
And
I
if
told
it's
you that I was in a sports bar and they had a Cheech and Chong beverage that they were selling, which I thought was weird. But anyway,
But again, I think the reason dispensaries came into be because they're testing. That's part of the issue that you didn't know what you're getting on the street, and now their hemp products are very tricky. We talk about it all the time. You don't really know where you're getting your hemp. It's not regulated. You don't know what's really in these beverages at the liquor store, but you do know what's in the beverages at the dispensary.
exactly.
Okay, plug for my people doing this legally. Okay, and before we jump in, so you know how I always talk about Canna moms being tested and having children's services, involved, and I get mad about it, and I don't know how to fix this in Massachusetts.
Yes.
All right. So today I saw, because I read the newspaper, the old-fashioned newspaper, the Boston Globe this morning had an article about, it was titled, House Aims to Alter the DCF Trigger, Department of Children and Families, DCF, yeah.
DCF.
Yeah, it's the child services. If you get in
child
trouble,
services.
they report you. So the Globe has a story about Massachusetts House leaders who are pushing a proposal that would free doctors, hospital officials, and others from the requirement to report suspected neglect to child welfare officials solely because a baby is born exposed to drugs, which is honestly a huge shift. We talked about with my friend Kara Crab Burnham. If you're a medical patient, it's on your records. And if you are a mandated reporter, hospital workers, and you believe you're harming the child, you are mandated to report. And now this law, I think it's aimed more at like opiate recovery programs, but I think it would impact cannabis as well.
I think that would make sense.
So, I don't know.
Interesting.
I love the idea that mandated. I've been talking about it. I just put it out in the universe, and now it was there in the Globe.
Wow.
I have so much power, Dave.
What kind of wizardry do you have working over there? Yes.
I'm a canna witch. All right. So I don't know. I just find this is I keep saying this could be fixed. Look, this is a fix. It's a policy fix that could be statewide. I'm going to figure out more information about it. I just read it this morning, but I don't know. Women who are using cannabis for medical reasons or have doctor's approval should not have children's services involved in their life for an unnecessary reason. And children's services, they have so much other things to do. They don't want to be doing this. So those mandated reporters, I think they're in a really tight position. So if they can say, if you're a mandated reporter, this is not harming the child, women can move forward, and then we can actually test the children. That's the other thing, that if women are honest about their use, then we can verify whether or not we're harming the children, which I don't think we are.
No, I would suggest we're helping the children if some cannabis is what a mom needs to get through the day and be reasonable and polite with their terrible kids who are screaming their heads off. Come on.
I always have, yeah. I would have been a better mom.
You go ahead.
I would have been a better mom. I would have been patient. I would have found them more entertaining. I would have been like, they're awesome. They're funny and cute and adorable.
Right.
All right. That's my plug. All right. So we do have a couple of guests. I'm just going to be quick. I do have a quick culture corner if we want to do the music, and then we can start the show.
The Culture Corner.
All right. I do like rom-coms. I've written my own rom-com, my Canna romance, but I want to recommend a rom-com movie. I watched it this weekend. It has Brooke Shields and the adorable Benjamin Bratt. It is The Mother of the Bride. Brooke Shields is my age. I love that there's a romance around a woman in her late 50s. And
wow.
Yeah. And Benjamin Bratt still looks good. And it's set as a destination wedding in Thailand. Brooke's daughter is getting married, and through a series of whatever, she doesn't know who she's marrying, and this reconnects her with the man who broke her heart when she was 22. It was fun. It was romantic. I just love seeing a woman my age starring as the role. I mean, how good is that? So, Mother of the Bride, Netflix, and Brooke Shields is still beautiful and funny, really funny.
She's always funny. She's great in the sitcoms she appeared in over the years. She had quite a career. Did you see the documentary about her that came out a couple of years ago, maybe about a year ago?
Mm-mm.
No? Oh, very interesting. And kind of disturbing in hindsight how early in life she was sexualized. They covered that.
Yeah.
But she, she really endured. And she's really strikes me as far as celebrities go, pretty down to earth and just has a good head on her shoulders and good for Brooke Shields.
Good for Brooke Shields. Yay. Yay. Older women getting cute men and having a rom-com made about them. I'm excited. And it's on Netflix if you're looking for it. All right. Thanks, Dave.
All right.
All right. Today's guest, let's introduce her. Today's guest is the founder of PayRio, a payment processing solution for businesses and alternative medicine sectors. She founded PayRio on the heels of her successful career as an executive in fintech, which included over a decade with JP Morgan. Her payments knowledge and her industry experience is incredibly valuable in the cannabis payment space. In addition, today's guest has a compelling and inspiring story as she's a single mom of 3 who's led her first startup to profitability in under a year. I love that we can share her inspiring success story in an industry where female executive leadership and business overall have struggled to survive. Today's guest and PayRio are on a mission to normalize and stabilize payments for high-risk sectors, ensuring that businesses, whether they are dispensaries, delivery services, seed merchants, or e-commerce businesses, have access to compliant, fair, and reliable payment solutions. And I'm looking forward to sharing how she's accomplished this incredibly difficult journey. Please welcome to the Canna Mom Show, Aubrey Amatelli, founder of PayRio. Welcome.
Thank you, Joyce. So happy to be here.
Glad to have you. Let's just start with the name. How'd you come up with the name PayRio and the vibe?
So actually, you mentioned I'm a mom of 3. So Rio is my youngest child, my daughter. I have 2 boys and a girl. And so she got the namesake. I was, when I launched the company, I was looking for, it's a health and wellness payment solution. So what's life, water flowing, right? And someone mentioned river. And I thought to myself, well, my daughter's name is Rio. This is absolutely perfect. And the combination of pay clearly with the payment solution worked well. Her older brothers are a little jealous, but their names are Nico and Gino. So I'm not sure if anyone would really trust a payment company with, Nico Gino Pay. I just think, especially coming from the East Coast, right? So
I think that'd be actually pretty funny. All right, so
yeah,
let's shift back. All right, so you came from JP Morgan, a pretty traditional world of finance, fintech, and just briefly, how did you end up transitioning from the world you were in to cannabis, which is obviously we need the payment processing. We have a billion issues, but not everyone's willing to enter it. So how did you make that transition? How did you get here?
Great question. So JP Morgan was my home for many years, over a decade, as you mentioned. I'm born and raised in the Silicon Valley. I was actually at a startup in San Francisco that JP Morgan purchased and folded us into their payment organization. And JP Morgan being the largest payment processor in the world, I learned so much. It was the best education I ever could have gotten in payments. And I spent a lot of time there during the years where I was having children, right? So it was especially in the Silicon Valley, being at a big bank and a big corporation felt safe for me as a breadwinner at the time, to be able to raise my children in a safe in a safe financial environment. Fast forward a decade, I was, picked to be one of the technology bankers in the Silicon Valley that JP Morgan essentially created this group to go head to head with an old bank called SVB or Silicon Valley Bank. Long story, I took the leap because my ultimate goal was to get into the C-suite of a startup company. Just still, startups were in my blood, being born and raised in Silicon Valley. And after about a year as a technology banker, I transitioned to be the chief revenue officer at a fintech. And that's really where my love for the startup world just was reinvigorated. And after a year at that fintech, I saw the power and the knowledge that JP Morgan gave me from the big bank and how to translate the way they operate to a smaller startup. And I realized that, I wanted to start a business myself. And a big piece of why I started, for many reasons, but one of them is female leadership. I was the only female in the entire C-suite and board at that startup, and it didn't look like that was going to change anytime soon. And if it's not going to change, of course, I guess I think I might as well change it myself. So I launched PayRio and wanted to focus in on cannabis, CBD, alternative medicines. Jamie works with psilocybin. That's a huge passion of mine as well. And being in California, I was involved, or have been involved in the cannabis industry since 2010. So I've seen how it changed, and ultimately I manifested, my dream job, bringing my love
Okay.
for payments and cannabis together. Yeah.
All right. So when you were leaving so you're in this world. California obviously is a little bit different. It's been legal longer there. They got their own issues.
Yeah.
It's still
Yeah.
everyone's still got payment processing issues. This is still illegal federally, so banks are very reluctant to deal with it. I don't know. What were you thinking? Again, women leadership, I totally get, but again,
Yeah.
there's not really many workarounds in cannabis finance. People are always having things are shut down. I know here on 420, with the biggest day, and all the payment processors shut down. So, when you popped into this world, did you foresee, like, did you kind of, you went from a very stable, like a really stable environment to a very unstable environment where you're kind of making up the rules. So what was your vision when you first went into it? And I don't know, I know you have something very specific about moms and working moms that you're hoping to
Yeah.
achieve, but just in terms of your basic worldview, were you surprised at how hard it is? And what was the real goals for setting out? Yeah, exactly.
I had no clue what I was
Okay.
getting myself
Okay.
into at all.
Okay, there you go.
all I knew is I love payments, and I actually launched a company with CBD in mind.
Okay.
CBD being federally legal, you're able to process payment solutions without, intermediaries or workarounds, or finding compliant ways, but just not through the traditional payment rails. So
Right.
at JP Morgan, yes, we were low risk. For me, I came into this thinking, okay, I can handle that, maybe CBD, and elevate that, have it be a little bit more high risk, because I am passionate about that, the plant medicines. And ultimately, as I dove in, very quickly I realized, Square kind of owned the CBD market, but everyone we spoke to asked, do you have cannabis payment solutions? And so
Right.
that's what started my journey and my research, and vetting every single technology out there, making sure it hit my JP Morgan standards. And that's one piece about what we bring to the table, is there's so many solutions out there, and it's really hard to find the ones that are compliant and you can trust. And that's what we do. So when a customer comes on board, we've already vetted the 50 solutions, and we know which ones are going to be stable in the market. And that's, the gift that we're bringing to cannabis. So it's been a wild ride, though. It's been, the hardest job I've ever done in my entire life, but also my favorite job. And I'm proud of what we're building and how we're supporting the cannabis community as well.
So we can go back maybe more to like most people don't even understand the minutia of payment processing, but just believe us, it's really hard and it shuts down and nobody knows what they're doing. And again, if you've gone into a dispensary, know that you can't use a credit card. Even Massachusetts here, a lot of people won't even take debit cards, and they won't take anything. You have to use cash, which is part of the payment processing. So,
Yes.
this is an issue because of banking, and we can kind of get back to that. But let's talk about moms. So you are a mom of 3.
Yeah.
Again, I'm older than you, but the whole world of women being the only one in the room, I can't believe it's still happening. It kind of makes me mad, but it's still there. You almost have to pretend you don't have children. It's not right. And I keep hoping that cannabis will be a new industry, because we have women like you, next generation of women who just expect to be in the work world. And we need to create a world that accommodates caregivers, because the world does not accommodate caregivers. So how are you envisioning this, and how are you trying to help moms who, again, if you can be a mom, you can do anything. You can multitask, you function, you have like kid schedules, and you know how to use time efficiently. I always say this: women coming back into the world of monetized work when they take time off are very efficient with their time, yet we're not accommodated for it. So how are you functioning in this world, and what are you trying to do to accommodate moms who, a similar situation that you were in?
Absolutely. So it's been a mission of mine from the start. I looked at the initial investor deck I had before I had a single employee, before I really honed in on my vision. But the one thing one of a few things that still remains is, is empowering stay-at-home moms and women to contribute to their family at times when their children are at school. And so from the get-go, I started out with sales opportunities for mothers during that time. And as the company's grown, the majority of my operational team, over 5 women, are stay-at-home moms who work when their kids are at school, are incredibly impactful to my company, the backbone. I couldn't have done it without them. And I'm, just so proud to see how they are stepping up and owning, their role at the company, and they're a big part of our success. And they get to also, have the most flexible schedule ever whenever they're off carpooling or doing what they need to do. I want them to do that, family first, but when they show up at work, they are on point, and I'm so thankful that I have the opportunity to do that for many women.
So when you're actually like reaching out to people, is that something you offer? You talk about it as a benefit, saying, again, a lot of women my age and older were always told to just lean in harder and it'll get better, but that was wrong. It was actually wrong. And then it just wasn't. We don't have. I just want a world where like an exceptional woman can achieve like a mediocre man. I don't think that's much to ask. And part of it is accommodating the caregiving requirements that people have. It should be men and women, but it's often on the mom. So yeah. So are you reaching out to women? Are they coming to you? Again, you're a younger generation than me. There's a lot of women who have like a lot of degrees. They've always had a lot of experience, but then they come back. If you take time off, you're penalized. So are you not penalizing people? Are you looking at how are you doing this differently?
Well, so PayRio's like my 4th child, right?
Yeah.
And so all of the employees at PayRio, over 25 now, I know through my network. I 2 of my best friends from high school who are stay-at-home moms are, onboarding and heading up onboarding and customer success. I have a very good friend from high school as well who came on, and she's been with 4th employee. So everyone at the company is, I know through my network, because I also want to trust everyone within and know that as I'm growing in a completely self-funded company, there's a lot on the line, right? And then that's my family. So everyone who's works at PayRio, I know through my network, and for me, that's right now at our growth, that's the best way to hire. And I know and trust and love them, and vice versa. They're looking at this as their company as well, which is how it should be. So for me, it's everyone, has an opportunity. I just want to make sure they're a right fit for the company. But yes, they can work when their kids are at school, completely flexible schedule. And it's great for them. They get to manage both and very efficiently.
And you recognize that how efficient moms are when they have to be. Ask if you want something done, ask a busy woman. All right.
Exactly.
All right. Let's just flip it. Okay. So you said you have a love of payment processing, which I've never heard anyone say that before, and a love of cannabis.
It's true. I am a payments nerd. I say that all the time. I love it.
So what was your canna story? Did you grow up with it? Was it like, were you getting in trouble for it? Did you recognize it was good for you? What is your actual own canna journey, I guess?
My canna journey. So I was a big time soccer player in high school. I actually, my goal was to get a full ride scholarship to a D1 school. And I did that. I actually went out to the East Coast in New Jersey. I went to Seton Hall, played for the Pirates and the Big East. So cannabis in high school was very rare, minimal, because I was so focused on getting that scholarship. So I really stayed out of it. But I do remember the very dried up little baggies that were handed down from multiple siblings down to us at the very bottom. I think it was brown every time. But, so fast forward through college, we were all, drug tested as well. But then I get back into the working world, and actually that my children's father was a home grow. So when I met him, he had, operations in Santa Cruz County, and it was very new for me at the time, 2010, still illegal. So, working through, but also seeing, the opportunity he had, but also seeing how, pounds went from $4,500 all the way down to $1,200, and seeing the industry change in California. It was a big part of his life. And I was kind of alongside following that journey. So it's very interesting now. I was to be able to kind of marry what my experience since 2010 and bring that together, because I have been involved in the cannabis industry when I look back for quite a long time.
All right. So okay, I'm just imagining what your mother would. So if I was your mother. All right. So your parents have this very straight arrow girl who's focused on her body and her athletes and like is doing all the things right. And then you find a young man who's growing pot for a living.
Let me tell you, back in 2010, it was quite the big deal. He was in construction for many years, so yes, that was definitely a huge deal. And you put it perfectly. But now it's
really worked.
it's a part of my life. Yeah, this is
So when you
yeah.
so when you were doing your stuff at JP Morgan, that's a pretty straight laced place. You couldn't talk about cannabis there, or like how was no.
Absolutely not. And so funny as I remember when I left JP Morgan to go to the startup, and then when I launched PayRio, it took me about a week to figure out how am I going to post this on LinkedIn, because the majority of my network was JP Morgan and, in that fintech world. And it was a big deal. For me, I knew that's what I wanted to do, and I wanted to be loud and proud about it, right? And you can see that on my LinkedIn. But the very initial, it was like, I remember waiting to kind of hit that save button. But the beautiful thing about it is a huge part of my network came pouring in. Oh, I use cannabis. I have sleepy gummies, or what do you recommend? Oh, on the side, I make cookies or I make butter. And, big time execs or people that I've worked with for the decade at JP Morgan, kind of feeling free and feeling comfortable to share that they utilize this medicine. So it was a beautiful thing for me to see. And it gave me a lot more confidence, like pushing forward in this industry and being open on LinkedIn, which I think is the largest social media platform for cannabis. And I'm so thankful for LinkedIn to allow us to do hashtags and spread the word. But yeah, that's kind of my...
And to like exist. Again, I'm a pearl wearing tennis playing mom out here on the East Coast, and I talk about cannabis all the time. And because I talk about it, my ladies at the temple tell me, my ladies who I play tennis with talk to me. And again, it's the same thing for you. We talk about this all the time, the shame. There's so much shame that everyone hid it, specifically for Canna moms, which I want to talk about more about your parenting after we talk with our special guest.
Yeah.
But the shame kept us from talking, and everyone thought they were alone. So it's these stories, and it's like this taking, I don't know, just saying what you are, and like saying this narrative is wrong. Cannabis should not be a controlled substance. This is just why it's on there are terrible reasons, and we really believe and I'm not conspiratorial, but I do sound that about cannabis. The reason we believe what we believe is because it was a story that was told to us, and to prove how bad the story was, they had to create a whole act and put it on there and say this one plant is so dangerous, no one can touch it. And it's really harmed a lot of people. So now we're flipping it around, and when everyone starts talking about it, it makes it more normal. So that's good for you. All right, we're gonna come back with you because we have a lot we want to talk about. We want to talk about kids and descheduling and so much stuff. So we'll be back with our guest, Aubrey Amatelli, after we speak with Jamie Morey, founder of Parents for Plant Medicine. Jamie, welcome.
Hi, glad to be here.
Glad to have you. All right, let's make this. Just tell me why you founded where you are and why you founded Parents for Plant Medicine, and what you're hoping to achieve right now.
Yeah, I'm on the South Shore of Boston, down in Marshfield. I have 4 kids. The youngest is 11 and the oldest is 21. And yeah, actually it's because of them that I founded Parents for Plant Medicine.
Let's tell us about I know some health issues and different things, but if you can keep it all in under 10 minutes. She's got a big story. She could have her own show. Yeah.
My medicine, for a long time, as a mom, definitely, helped me relax, helped me focus with, horrible ADHD, which I hope is not on display during this 5-minute conversation. It's, helped me in so many ways since I was young. And yeah, my kids, happy, healthy, normal for most of their life, but came down with a neurological disorder that caused some very severe mental health issues. And, my oldest, who's 21, has been on psych meds, you know, in traditional therapy, on every pharmaceutical you can think of since he was 14 years old. And when he turned 18, I got him his medical license, because I knew cannabis could address, you know, at least some of the issues he was dealing with around sleep and lack of appetite. So
And when you were starting this, when you were making this decision, how did the medical professionals around you feel about it? Did they try to stop you? Did they think you were endangering him? They agree with
I
you?
didn't really consult with I didn't really consult with anyone other than, you
Okay.
know, I went through the legal route to get him a medical card at 18. So
Sorry, I just like, if they, because I have heard this often, that people are they're titrating down off of other medications once they start using the cannabis. So, you know, those are always issues to be concerned with if you're actually taking pharmaceuticals and you introduce cannabis as a medicine.
yeah, I had a great provider that gave him his certification and also some guidance around that.
All right. So
Yeah.
as when you're on this journey, we starting to meet other parents who are in the same situation. I've been meeting a lot of moms in these situations where they're trying to help their children, but because of the Controlled
Yeah,
Substance Act, they're not allowed to like help them. So yeah, tell me the stories, maybe what it's gone through.
on a lot of Facebook groups and, you know, in-person groups with other women whose children have the same diagnosis with mine, kids who have autoimmune disorders or just, you know, mental health issues, communicate a lot around, you know, what are you doing for this? What are you doing for this symptom, that symptom? And, you know, the answer was always a pharmaceutical. So I started chiming in, you know, have you tried cannabis? And found a lot of people really seeking information.
Right.
Still in this day and age, where it's
Oh
been
yeah.
legal for so long, it was like, you know, it hadn't even occurred to some people.
Right.
You know,
Oh yeah.
benefits for sleep in particular is a huge issue, and that one's just a no-brainer.
Plus, I
So
mean, I will say there's been so much discussion about whether or not it's bad for children's brains, back and forth, and this idea that we're willing to give them pharmaceuticals so easily, yet we're so concerned about the plant medicines. I don't know. It just, again, we're not studying it carefully. We don't really know, but there's like it's like we have blinders on. So we need parents talking about this, because I have seen this over and over again. Parents are coming to this as a last resort, and it shouldn't be out of desperation. It should be part of the options that are in the toolbox. So what are you doing, and how are you trying to convince? Are you working with policymakers? You're working with local groups? What are you doing?
so cannabis, you know, is what sort of piqued my interest, just to start speaking up to parents about this, how it's, you know, good moms use cannabis. Cannabis can be helpful for children who are, you know, older children, especially, who are struggling with certain disorders and diagnoses. And my older children's treatment resistant depression got really, really severe a couple of years ago. And we had tried everything, and that led us to IV ketamine. Could only afford, because I got them a treatment grant, a medical treatment grant for the Lyme disease that my son has. And ketamine was amazing for him. It really, really dramatically helped him with his depression, but it just doesn't last, you know, as long as we wanted it to, and it's very expensive, and the money ran out quickly. And that's how I started looking at psychedelics, which, you know, I had a recreational relationship with in my late teens and early 20s, but hadn't touched for years or even really thought about. But I really started digging into the research for depression, PTSD, so many. It's powerful anti-inflammatory. That's great for autoimmune, Lyme, just great for so many conditions. And then that's what led me to form Parents for Plant Medicine and just start doing advocacy work, speaking at the State House, speaking to legislators, speaking to parents, just about the facts, which are, and it's incredibly safe. It's very effective. The side effects are very minimal, especially compared to what we see with SSRIs. They've been used for thousands of years. This is nothing new. And that's
so I've been talking to different people and different, like I talked to a lawyer about this last week. I've been talking to policymakers from the Drug Alliance. These are very powerful tools that can be used for good, but they have potential for negativity because you are in a situation where you are very trusting and you need to have good people around you making sure that this is being used to, I don't know, people keep telling me it's like smoothing out all the grooves in your brain and like recreating new pathways. So you need to be very careful who it's not like just popping a pill. It's a process, but one of the issues is it's a process and then you're done. And then maybe you don't need to keep doing things like the pharmaceutical. So when you're talking to Massachusetts people, where do you think we are in this world of psilocybin and advancing its use medicinally?
There's a lot of interest, and it's on the ballot in November, which a lot of people aren't aware of. So I have recently started working with Massachusetts for Mental Health Options, which is the organization that's pushing the ballot initiative and just trying to reach out and educate people. That it's even on the ballot, which a lot of people don't realize. Even people in the cannabis space.
Yeah.
I was out last week at a pre-party for the Flower Expo.
Okay.
There's so much overlap clearly between and psychedelics, but a lot of people just aren't aware. And just the benefits. The benefits.
We're gonna help. Okay, so tell me. I have to go back, but let's say just tell me exactly. I can get this in my show notes and I can get it up to people. How can people influence what is happening? What is the bill called? And I can post information in the newsletter because that'd be great. Because I didn't know what this either.
Yeah. So it establishes a regulated therapeutic framework. So like you said, it's there is, we do need to be safe about this. People need to be screened to make sure it's the appropriate medicine for them. So there'll be psychedelic assisted therapy at licensed centers for individuals 21 and over. It does decriminalize the possession of psilocybin and other naturally occurring psychedelics, and allows for home cultivation for individuals who are over 21. And yeah, it's
that's really interesting. And I guess, MAPS, the organization, they are based out of Massachusetts. He's been working on this for 50 years. So this is maybe it's another way to heal people. All right. So Jamie, if you want to connect with you, reach out to you, get involved, what's the best way to reach you?
I'm on social media, Parents for Plant Medicine. Massachusetts for Mental Health Options is also, there's a website on social media, and there's also a nonprofit that's forming called the Open Circle Alliance, which, beyond November and the hopeful passage of this ballot measure, is sort of a place to collect all the people who are interested in the psychedelic space.
Which is everybody. I swear everybody's interested. All right. Thank you, Jamie. That's all in the show notes. And if you want to reach out, I didn't actually know that was going to be in the ballot. So that's good news to know. All right. Thanks for your insights.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. All right. Back with Aubrey Amatelli. Let's see. Let's talk about rescheduling. It's going to happen. It's going to go from 1 to 3, may get descheduled, but how do you think specifically? Payment processing. I know there's talk about the 280E issues. There's talk about, research. What do you think is going to happen with payment processing when it is rescheduled?
I get this question all the time.
Yeah.
I don't think that it is going to affect payment processing
no?
directly. I think it's going to be a step in the right direction. For us in the payment processing side, the Safer Banking Act is really what we're looking for having passed. At that time, the banks will be able to support our industry that we're supporting, and then from there, it's going to put the payment brands, essentially in center stage. What are you going to do? How are you going to support the processing of or payment processing of cannabis? So for us, it's definitely a step in the right direction. I mean, 280E is a big deal. It'll help just lower the cost for dispensaries, which will, in general, help grow the industry. But we're really looking for the Safer Banking Act. It's not directly impactful, but again, it's a step in the right direction. So it's the way we're excited for that. Yeah.
I think, that seems to be the general consensus. It's okay, but we need legislation.
Yeah.
And that is the way that alcohol was illegal. And then we had to pass legislation to make it legal. And we created a legal industry that functions reasonably well now. So I'm pretty sure we can do this. So
We will.
that's-
Maybe not as quickly as we want to, but I'm very hopeful.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
say this every show. America making money used to be our jam. This is a money maker, so stop making it so hard to make money. It's just
Yes,
ridiculous.
exactly.
All right, let's talk about your kids. How old are they now?
My oldest is 11, turning 12 here next month, 10 and 8. So I have three very close together. They're all about a year and a half apart.
Okay, and how do you talk to them about cannabis? I mean, their father was in cannabis, I guess. So has this been a conversation since they're little? Is it something new? How does this work in your family?
So their father's cannabis journey ended when there was legalization in
Okay.
California, just because of, being a small operator compared to the large. So
Yeah.
he transitioned to be a stay-at-home dad, and for a while there, we, weren't really involved in cannabis in that
Okay.
way. Now, mommy's company supports dispensaries and alternative medicines, and I talk about it as a medicine, a plant medicine that helps people sleep with anxiety. So they don't see me consume. It's more of an open conversation that this is what a dispensary is. This is what a dispensary sells, and but they're very open about talking about it. They, because I'm open, there's no stigma in their mind, and for me, it's very interesting. How do they speak about it to their teachers? How do they speak about it to other children? To them, it's no big deal. This is what mommy does. They're so excited about the company. They're so proud of me. My daughter Rio, she writes how like her dream one day is to grow up and work for PayRio, and same with the boys. So it's super sweet. And
That's
so
cute.
far there's been no, negative feedback back from adults. I think they're very respectful, knowing what I'm doing, and that this is the way I support my family. So it's very open, but I don't consume at this point in front of them. I haven't gotten to that point. I don't consume very often anyways. It's more the nighttime gummy or after the kids go to bed to relax. So
So all right, so it's normalized. But again, this is the thing, all the cannaboms. You're breaking the stigma. My kids were older. They were in their teenage years when I had my awakening. And I was like, oh my God, everything I know is wrong. So that's a whole that's a whole different conversation than it's just thing that's around. It's mom and dad use it. If it's in the house, it's usually someplace safe they can't access. I know I've
exactly.
heard moms talk about their kids ask them, they're like, Mom, I think you need to have your medicine. Like no one ever tells
Yeah.
their mother to have another drink. So
Mhm.
it just
Yes, that's true.
anyway,
I think I much prefer, like with Jay. I mean, microdosing psilocybin. I think that's an incredible alternative to alcohol. In my opinion, I actually don't consume alcohol. I'm more on the plant medicine side. So yes, it's nice for us. There's no alcohol, and it's very open about cannabis. They see it around. I mean, clearly, I go to Benzinga and MJ BizCon, and I come back with a suitcase full of samples. So it's around, but in a safe
and then
space.
so how about with your kids are still pretty little. So are you like a PTA mom? Do people like come up to you and ask you questions? Or are you like very popular? Are they shunning you? How's that working?
I wish I had the time to be a
Oh, no.
PTA mom, but when you're running a
That's
startup,
true.
I really don't have time at all. The most, for me, I make the soccer games, I make the plays, I make the, the big events. But that's actually
Yeah.
an interesting question. I'm almost like, I haven't seen the show Weeds, and I need to see it. But everyone says you're like the mom in Weeds, right?
Oh,
Because I
Nancy
do grow.
Botwood.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
do grow 6 plants in my backyard every summer.
Yeah.
I'm in the cannabis industry. I'm very, very open. But I wish I had more time to socialize with, with the children, or with the parents, because it would be, a great way to kind of
It's like to
destigmatize.
shift it because I used to always say I
Yeah.
could have worn wine mom shirts to school. People would have been excited. But if I came in with like a canna mom shirt or smoked a joint and smelled like, I would have been ostracized back in the day. So I do think there's a shifting. Alcohol isn't that good for us, especially women. We know that now. It's really, this is an alternative. And if you find somebody you trust to talk about it, that's what I
Yes.
like in
Yes.
your Silicon Valley world. Okay. So just let's talk a little bit more about your business. So who are you helping specifically? Who are you hoping to reach if there's businesses out there who are looking for payment, solutions? And yeah, why maybe that, and maybe what are you doing that's different? I mean, it's bright and happy, and you guys are
Yeah.
cheerful, but what else is good about it? Yeah.
So our primary customer base are dispensaries across the country. So
Mhm.
we help dispensaries enable card acceptance, whether it's debit or credit card. And every time an operator comes on board and trusts us with their payment solution, for us, it's just such a feel good feeling because we know now their customers are going to have easier access to buying their medicine. So it's
Right.
pushing the industry forward. So our primary customers are dispensary operators. We have, mom and pop shops all the way up to publicly traded MSOs using our solution. So very proud of that. And then we also, a big mission of mine this year has been to take a step forward into the psychedelic space. So we do on the e-commerce side. So we help payment processing for cannabis seeds, psilocybin
Mm.
spores. We have, solutions for psychedelic ketamine treatment centers, psilocybin treatment centers. I'm a big advocate of that as well. So that's our goal. My goal is to be the first psychedelic payment processor in the industry. We're finding ways, compliant ways, which a lot of times aren't through the traditional rails, but compliant ways to also support this space. So when you think of PayRio, think of cannabis, psychedelics, alternative medicines. That's our entire focus, is how do we grow those industries in compliant, reliable ways.
And what is it? Again, I don't really understand how payment processing works. I just know it's a problem. What is it that you're doing that maybe other payment processors aren't doing or aren't able to? What is it that you're trying to how are you accomplishing what you're accomplishing? I guess that's
Yes, it's hard.
yeah.
That's a great question, and it's two different lanes, right? The
Okay.
e-commerce side is fully compliant or federally legal. So those,
Right.
psilocybin spores, cannabis seeds, THCA, you talked a little bit about for now, and CBD, those you can sell online through the normalized payment rails. Visa and MasterCard and Amex and Discover have recognized those industries. And for now, it's safe to sell online. From the cannabis side of the house, everything has to be with the card present. And that payment solution isn't through the traditional rails. There's steps in between through the final process to make it compliant. We utilize the ATM rails. We utilize wallet technology like Venmo. So we found ways that are compliant and check all those boxes. And we're sticking to that piece. And again, as I mentioned earlier on, there are so many solutions. It's really hard to go out there as an operator. If you just, Google
Right.
it, you're going to get so many solutions. You're going to have to go through 20, 30 calls. A
Right.
lot of them are bending the rules or falsifying MCC codes or using cryptocurrency or offshore banks. And so
Mhm.
the limited amount of products we offer are on purpose, and that's because they've been vetted, tested, and I've done a deep dive with every single technology company to make sure it checks all the boxes. Have we experienced shutdowns or pauses in the technology we brought to the table? We have, and that's been the wild ride of
Mhm.
when you asked about, did you expect what you're getting into? No, I didn't. But those shutdowns ultimately, everything we've done are compliant. The shutdowns are for different reasons from the payment brands, and so it's a lot of times we have to respect that until it's
Mhm.
federally legal, but we also can continue to push forward and find solutions that do work. And if there is a pause, or operators now know there might be a pause, there might be a shutdown, but as long as PayRio has alternative options or different options to support them with. So far so good, but it's
Is
been a wild ride, very wild.
is it like I have some okay, I always say cannabis is like the real world. We have everything, but it's a little upside down. So when I talk to even my accounting friends who are in this business, they just tell me they're frustrated a lot. So that's part of the payment processing, right? Of like how you're accessing your money, and yeah, that's
Yeah. Yeah, for us though, it's a little bit different because we're collecting the revenue of the dispensary and we're sending it to them in, 48 hours. And
right.
our solution has proven to increase their average ticket. So when they're a cash only business and they sign on with us, they're going to grow 25, 35, 45% just in the amount that the consumer spends. So it's helping, that dispensary grow and have alternative solutions and redundancy, right? At the end of the day, cash is king and cash will always be there. There's ATMs in the back of the store most of the time, but our solution allows them to have a little bump in that revenue and gives them the opportunity to grow and, their business as well.
And it's just, we're not used to, I mean, again, women know how to shop. We do all the shopping, but we are not used to going to places that are cash only, that you have to show 3 IDs to get in, and you're not really, and you're paying a 20% tax on. So anybody who can make it in this time, I guess, of cannabis, pioneering, once everything gets more normalized, you must be very streamlined. I can't imagine you could function unless you're extraordinarily efficient with everything you're using. All right.
Very efficient, on the back end. And also building, part of what we're building is a solution for when it's federally legal.
Right.
We have that normal, direct payment rail, and that's something we're building now. So we're going to be able to take our entire customer base, they could stay where they are or transfer them over to, a different, more streamlined solution. So yes, you're right. It's a tough road right now, but we're preparing for when it's recognized as federally legal, and we'll be ready.
I can see that, doing it differently. All right. I said, you did say you weren't much of a consumer, but I always ask, what is your favorite way to consume?
I am into joints right now. I really love smoke. Like, it's warm weather here in California. And so, and it stays light out very, very late. So when the kids are kind of getting ready to bed, I go to the front porch. It's 80 degrees, 75 degrees. And just to like relax and smoke a joint is just, for me right now, heaven. It's just a great way to end a 12-hour workday, right? So it's wonderful. Yeah.
I am done with you. Yeah, I wasn't much of a joint smoker back in the day, but lately, that's actually how I connect with my husband. After dinner, we sit on our porch and we smoke a joint and we talk to each other. I know that seems crazy, people.
And then you start laughing and giggling, and
you're like, I do like you. I remember.
I remember.
All right. Aubrey, if people want to connect with you, want to reach out to PayRio, if need your services, what is the best way to reach you and connect with you?
Yeah, so my website, you can click Meet the Team, payrio.co or .com. Actually, that was a big birthday company or Christmas present that I purchased with the .com. So payrio.com or co. And then Meet the Team. I actually have my calendar available so they can schedule a meeting with me directly. I want to be open and accessible to people who are interested. And then Instagram's a big one for us. PayRio_HQ, and then of course LinkedIn, my favorite social media platform for cannabis.
It is, and they're fun and they're pink and they're out there doing this really smart work, which I don't really understand, but I know that it's very necessary. So
yes. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. Thank you, Jamie. So for my guest, that's another show. For my guest, Aubrey and Jamie, and of course my Canna Bro, David Jazz, and our Canna Mom Show team, I want to thank you for taking the time to listen to the Canna Mom Show, where we're on a mission to enhance the impact women have on the emerging cannabis industry by sharing and preserving their stories of love, kindness, wisdom, and hope. Thank you for sharing and listening to these amazing stories so that together we will crush that stigma around cannabis and caregivers. I am your host, Joyce Gerber. This is the Canna Mom Show, and we are a production of Pod 617, the Boston Podcast Network.